Season 1, Episode 1, The Lady in the Bottle. Captain Tony Nelson is sent on a space flight mission when his one-man shuttle, the Stardust 1, crashes off the shore of a deserted island somewhere in the South Pacific. When attempting to spell out an SOS message in the sand, he finds a peculiar-looking object that reveals itself to be a lamp. He rubs it, and out comes a beautiful blonde woman dressed in ancient Middle Eastern attire. At first, there is a disconnect in communication, with the genie speaking ancient Arabic, but he wishes for her to speak English, and that fixes things. Now, I don't know if Barbara Eden is actually speaking Arabic here, but kudos for at least attempting to include that detail for some sort of authenticity. It would have been so easy for the writers to just say fuck that and have her speaking English from the start, but they didn't go that route and actually put in some effort, and I applaud that. One thing that is different in this case from your usual person finds a lamp and gets their wishes granted from a genie situation is that when Nelson becomes this particular genie's new master, it apparently has no cap on how many wishes he can make. Now, I think there may be certain restrictions depending on the specifics of anyone's situation, but as far as how often Jeannie can use her powers to grant his wishes, that's pretty much wide open. I mean, it would have to be for this series to work. If it were just 3 wishes and done, we wouldn't make it past the pilot. Now, after freeing Jeannie, Tony tells her she has no obligation to him and is free to go about her business. However, she waits for him to be rescued, re-enters her bottle, and smuggles herself aboard, following him back to Cocoa Beach, Florida. Once he realizes Jeannie has fallen him back, he tries everything he can to get rid of her, to no avail. Nelson is engaged to be married to a woman named Melissa, who we never see again after the pilot, who happens to be the General's daughter. There's a scene where Dr. Bellows and the General show up to check in on Tony when he realizes he accidentally threw away Jeannie's lamp. He rushes outside to stop the garbage man, offering to pay for the garbage, hollering about how a woman is in there, frantically scavenging through it until he finds her bottle. This was the exact moment that Dr. Alfred Bellows first starts to realize that something was just a little bit off about Tony Nelson. Little did he know, this occurrence was just the tip of the fucking iceberg of odd he would find himself encountering over the next 5 years. He first tries to make everyone believe that Jeannie is real. Of course, no one believes him, so he quickly backtracks, but Bellows isn't buying it. He, of course, doesn't think Jeannie is real, but he sure as hell thinks that Nelson thinks she's real. Jeannie is mad at Nelson for trying to expose her, and then transports herself and him to ancient Baghdad to show him how she used to party back in the day. He remains adamant in his stance that she has to go. He said that she needs to be gone by morning and retires to his room. And her response to that is, whatever, man, looking directly at the camera in a mischievous fashion. When the pilot was originally filmed, it ended with Jeannie in Tony's room and him ordering her to leave. When the show was bought by the network, the censors said they had to add footage of Jeannie's smoke leaving Tony's room so that no suggestion was made that she stayed a night in his room with him. That began the list of rules that had to be followed, including that any scene showing them in the bedroom together must include one or both of them leaving the room. Once she was out of the bottle, Jeannie spoke Persian, not Arabic, as is often stated. Because the producer, Sidney Sheldon, was unable to find a tutor for Barbara Eden to learn Arabic phonetically, she had to settle for a UCLA professor who coached her in Persian. Now, when Tony asked Jeannie how she ended up in the bottle, she tells him some wicked and powerful jinn put her there because she refused to marry him. This wicked and powerful jinn, called the Blue Jinn, appears in the Season 2 episode Happy Anniversary from 1966, the first episode of the series to air in color, portrayed by Barbara Eden's real-life husband at the time, Michael Ansara. The original unaired version of the pilot was longer by 5 minutes. It was edited down for broadcast to fill the standard half-hour format with commercials to match the rest of the episodes. Viewers get a good look at Roger Healy as a member of the chorus rather than a co-star in the pilot. Bill Daly would be in 131 episodes overall. This was the only episode where Bill Daly played a straight-laced, serious Roger compared to his more laid-back, jovial appearances. Now, this was the only time that Hayden Rourke was mentioned in the opening credits, though he was in almost every episode of the show for the entire 5-year run. Overall, this was a really good episode. The writing was decent, it had some pretty good jokes, it laid out the premise of the series and made it clear-cut to what we could expect going forward. Obviously, this being the pilot episode, things would change a little bit and be tweaked going into the series, but other than that, yeah. This was a good episode and a pretty good indication for what we have going forward in this series. I give this episode an 8.5 out of 10.